Hey guys, it's Dagan here. I've been gone for a while, and I wanted to make a video, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to make it something more than just one of my average vlogs, and I have been watching on YouTube a lot recently, top 10 videos, top 20 videos, videos like that. So I decided I would do one of those. And what I'm going to do is my top 10 favorite stories. Now these stories, they can be anything. They can be from mythology, they can be from, fiction, they can be like Harry Potter, which is not one of them. Sorry. But it can be mythology, fiction, anything. Urban legend, anything that is a story. Whether it's true or not, doesn't matter, I'll put it in here. So, without further ado, these are my top 10 favorite stories. So, number 10 is a very popular set of stories. I'm not going to choose just one because there's very, very many. And I'm going to choose the stories from the Bermuda Triangle. Now, I don't feel like I really have to explain what the Bermuda Triangle is to people, but I will just in case. Bermuda Triangle is an area in the Atlantic Ocean where there have been a lot of strange occurrences, from supposed time warps to disappearances to technology going haywire. And one of the most famous ones is Flight 19, which randomly disappeared in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle and was never found again. And I don't know what it is about the Bermuda Triangle, just something about how there's so many possibilities and so many theories and so many scientific reasons for what might have happened, and that no one can prove what happened. Something about that just really interests me. And yeah, so let's move on to the next one. There was a crooked man who walked a crooked mile. He found a crooked sixpence upon a crooked stile. He bought a crooked cat, which caught a crooked mouse. They all lived happily in a crooked little house. This is a English nursery rhyme called A Crooked Man, or A Crooked Man, and it was, I forget who it was written by, but it was written in, I believe, the 1840s, and I don't know what it is about it. It's just kind of mysterious, and it gained a lot of popularity after after a game was made for it, a short game in the made in RPG Maker, and it was played by PewDiePie on YouTube, and it circled around YouTube. And I don't know, even without the game, it always just kind of seemed interesting to me how many different interpretations there are. Like in the game, it was interpreted that he was this like ghost kind of evil thing that was from a man who hanged himself. I always interpreted it more as someone who was like corrupted, I guess, like maybe a corrupted politician or something. Like that sounds kind of lame, but you know what I mean. There's just so many different ways to see it, and things with a lot of different interpretations really interest me, and I try and see every possible point of view on it, and for some reason that's just fun to me. So that's why I put this at number 9. Number 8 is a very, very famous story, I guess. It's true. It's a true story, and people call it the Poltergeist Curse. Basically, it's based on, well, not based on, it's that actresses and actors from the movie Poltergeist died during or shortly after the creation of the movies. And it's ironic because the central idea, I guess, of the movies was that their house was made on top of a Native American burial ground, and they desecrated the dead and angered the spirits by building the house there. And the spirits, did all the crap that happened in the movies. I haven't seen the movies myself, so that's part of the reason why this is so interesting to me. But a reason why some people say the curse exists was that in the first movie, during one of the pool scenes, there were skeletons in the pool, and the skeletons that were used as props were actual real human skeletons. And that supposedly angered the dead and caused them to take the lives of the actors and actresses who died, the 4 of them, who died either during or shortly after the movies. And this kind of thing, the paranormal events that happen in real life, which I'm not saying that's why. I mean, I believe still it's coincidence, because there's nothing that can really be proven. But I'm really interested in the paranormal, and that kind of just interests me, and I think that's cool. So, I mean, I would like to put this higher, but the next couple of items that I have are really, really interesting to me. So, that's why this goes in at number 8. Number 7 is I guess it's an urban legend. I don't really think it's an urban legend. I think it's more of just, one of those stories that you would tell, around a campfire to try and spook everyone. It's called Humans Can Lick Too, or the Licked Hand, or something like that. I don't remember. But basically, it starts with a girl who is sleeping in her house, and she hears a dripping sound coming from somewhere in the house. She doesn't know where. So, to make herself feel more comfortable, she sticks her hand under her bed to where her dog always sleeps, beneath her bed, and licks her hand for reassurance. That calms her down, and she falls back asleep. A little while later, though, she wakes up and still hears the dripping sound. And it kind of creeps her out. So again, she sticks her hand under her bed, her dog licks it, she feels comforted, she goes back to sleep. This happens several more times during the night, until the morning, when she wakes up and goes to check what the dripping sound was. And she walks into her bathroom and sees a dog, her dog, hanging on the wall dead, with blood dripping into the bathtub. And she turns around, and written on the mirror in the dog's blood are the words, "Humans can lick too." So, basically, I don't know why that story resonates so much with me. I like that story, I guess, because I heard it at a really young age, and it was really one of the first scary stories that I heard. And it didn't really scare me, but it's just, I don't know, that always just stuck with me. And it's kind of strange if you think about it, like, why would anyone do that? Why would someone create that story? It's kind of weird, but, people do weird crap. I'm an example. I've done weird stuff. Well, not like that. I haven't killed anyone's dog. I've licked strange things. This is going south. Alright, next one. Number 5. Probably a lot of people don't really know about them, but they're from Japanese folklore. And their name variously translates into, demons, devils, and I believe ogres and trolls. But they really are creatures of mythology for the Japanese, and they are called Oni. I don't know why the Oni interest me so much. I guess just the way they look is so different and unique. They usually, I have the wiki up, because I'm too lazy to memorize things. They usually are portrayed as hideous, gigantic, ogre-like creatures with sharp claws, wild hair, and 2 long horns growing from their head. They are humanoid for the most part, but occasionally they are shown with unnatural features such as odd numbers of eyes or extra fingers and toes. And I don't know what it is about them. They're very, I know a lot of these stories are like creepy kind of stories, and going forward they're all gonna kind of be that way, because I have a really messed up mind. Yeah, so I like demons. Demons and death and destruction. I don't really have much more to say about the Oni. I mean, I don't really know much about them, and that might be a reason why they interest me so much, is because I don't know much about them. And they just seem really interesting and actually kind of cool to actually learn more about them. There was something that they stole babies or something. I don't remember. Sadly. I knew about it one time. I have a book full of like monsters from urban legend, and it's actually a pretty cool book. I'll have to find it. But those are Onis. They go in at number 5. On to the next one, which I think a lot of you will know. Number 4 is about the death of a young boy by the name of Ben. But the way that the story of Ben's death is told is not in a story, but in a game. And this game, or this story, comes from none other than the great website Creepypasta. And it is called Ben Drowned. Basically, the writer of the story went to a yard sale and bought a used game of Majora's Mask for the NES from this elderly man. And when he got the NES game and took it home, there's a file already on it named Ben. And Ben had almost completed the game and was trapped in the last dungeon, I believe. I don't quite remember, it's been a while since I read the story. But basically, he played the game, and he noticed a few glitches in the game, but there wasn't much. And he stopped playing the game, went on with his life, and came back to play it the next day. And he noticed that his file had been erased. His save file had been erased, and Ben was still there. Ben was fine. So he started playing the game again, and excuse me if I don't get a lot of the details right. It's been a while since I read the story, but there were major issues in the game. And some of these issues were, whole parts of the game not loading. The music was playing backwards. The camera was fixed to one position. Link had a new death, sometimes just randomly, where he would burst into flames, fall to his knees, and die, which was not a death that was normally in the game. And he put on the Zora mask, which lets you breathe underwater, went underwater, and he drowned. And after that, the game exited, and we started up. The file Ben was replaced with drowned. And he went back to the old man and asked about a kid named Ben, and Ben was his grandson who had fell into a well and drowned. I know I got a lot of the details wrong in that story, and I'm sorry. Go look it up if you want more. Don't trust me on any of those details. But I know that's a false story, but it's kind of interesting because, like I said earlier, I'm interested in the paranormal, and to see that manifest in a video game and in what eventually got onto Cleverbot and a virus into his computer was really interesting to me. And to think that way about video games when I want to be a game designer or a programmer or an animator, these things just, I don't know, Ben Drowned just combines almost all of my interests into one, and it's just, I think it's a really great story. These final four are really hard for me to place in order, so you might as well just rearrange these last four in any order you want. They're all equally great to me. I just had to put them in an order for the video. So, on to the final three. Alright, so number 3 is another one of those scary stories that you would tell around the campfire to spook your friends. And this story is kind of like humans connect to, because I heard it at a very young age, and the person I heard it from was my counselor at my daycare when I was like 8 or something. And I remember it so vividly. I don't know why. I think it's because of the way he said it and who he was that made me just listen to it and love it. But basically, there's many variations of this story. Most of them start off with a woman who drives into a gas station to get her tank filled. And the gas station clerk notices a hand being raised in the back of her car. When the woman fills up her gas, the man comes out and says something to her. It changes with the story. But then he says that he needs to bring her inside for a credit card check or something along those lines. And he tells her that there is someone in the back of her car with either a knife or a gun or just someone. It changes. And from there, the story is very varied. That sounds weird to say. Is very different depending on who tells it. Some people, they have them call the cops and they just wait in the gas station, and whether or not the lady believes him or not changes the story. The story that I heard was a kind of different variation of it, where it wasn't the store clerk who noticed, it was the man who pulled up behind her, and he ended up following her, and every time he would see a hand with a knife go up in the back of the car, he would flash his headlights and the hand would go back down. Now, the lady didn't know why he was doing this, so she just had a man following her and flashing his headlights at her, and she started to get really, really paranoid. And she ended up calling the police on him. And when she got to her house, the police were waiting, and they arrested the man who was following the woman. And after the police and the man left, the man kept screaming at the woman that there was someone in the back of her car. And at this point, everyone wrote him off as crazy or trying to save his own hide or something along those lines, and no one believed him. So the cops left with the man in tow, and the lady went back into her house. Several minutes later, she hears the back of her car opening, and she starts to panic, and someone opens her door, comes inside, closes the door, and the neighbors around the neighborhood heard nothing but screams. And that story just really resonated with me in the kind of world that we live in, where people are so unbelieving, yet so paranoid at the same time. Like, so believing that nothing bad is really gonna happen, yet so paranoid that something wrong or something bad is going on at the same time. It's kind of weird, and it was really interesting the way that the story was told to me, as, you know, like an 8-year-old child who was just listening to this for the first time. And I wish I could talk to the counselor again and have him tell me more stories, to be honest. He was a really good storyteller. His name was, I don't know what his real name was, but the name that he went by at the daycare was Zulu, which I thought was cool at the time. So yeah, that's number 3. On to number 2. So this number 2 is a story that is very, very prevalent in both pop culture and in religion. And it is a story that I personally like for the whole story of it, not for the religion part, because I am atheist. And this story is the story of the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Basically, it's a book from It's a story from the New Testament, the book of Revelation, and it tells of a scroll held in God's right hand that is sealed with 7 seals. Jesus opens the first of the 4 seals and unleashes the 4 horsemen. And for the first horseman, there are several different variations and interpretations of what it is. Basically, the first horseman is a rider of a white horse wearing a victor's crown, and he holds a bow, and there are generally 3 different interpretations of him. He has been interpreted as evil, as the Antichrist, as a representation of false prophets. And this has been done by citing differences between the white horse in Revelation 6 and Jesus on the white horse in Revelation 19, where Jesus has many crowns, whereas the rider of the white horse only has 1. And that one kind of confused me. I don't really see how people come to that conclusion. The next 2 tend to make more sense. One of them is that he was There's actually 4 interpretations. I meant to say 4, not 3. One of them was that he was depicted as conquest or victory, which those two are self-explanatory. I shouldn't really need to say any more about those. Another one was that he was considered to be Christ himself, and the white horse was representative of the spreading of the gospel. And this is one of the more supported of the interpretations, and this is one of the more religious ones. And Christ, in this case, is also portrayed as a conqueror. And so that's one of them. There's a different one, the last one, where the first horseman is called pestilence and is associated with infectious disease and plague. This one is the more popular one is the more common one in pop culture. Whenever the Four Horsemen are referenced, like for instance in the game Binding of Isaac, he is referred to as Pestilence more commonly, whereas there's like a secret boss where he's referred to as Conquest instead. So that is the first rider. The second rider is the rider of the red horse, and he is pretty much only interpreted as one thing, and that is war. And that is the interpretation or the manifestation of war or mass slaughter. And in some translations, the color of his horse is specifically a fiery red, as opposed to just a red color. This, as well as the rider carrying a great sword, suggests much bloodshed to come, much blood to be spilled. He may represent, in the interpretation of the first horseman as conquest, war may represent more civil war rather than a war of conquest. That is sometimes said that the first horseman is said to bring. And other interpretations have suggested that war might also represent the persecution of Christians by the Romans and, whatnot. So the third horseman who comes out of the seals is the rider of a black horse, and is generally understood as famine. Now, this horseman carries a pair of balances, or the scales, indicating the way bread would have been weighed during a famine. This indicated the price of grain was about 10 times normal, with an entire day wages buying enough wheat for only one person. And obviously that is exactly what a famine is. A famine is a shortage of food, of resources that you need to survive. And the fourth horseman, which is my favorite, is the pale rider, the rider of the pale horse, or better known as Death. And I shouldn't really have to explain much more about this. Death wielded a scythe, and, the pop culture version of Death wields a scythe, but in the book of Revelation, he's not described as carrying a weapon or other object, but instead he is described as being followed out of the seal by hell, or by Hades. And it's about it. And that's really the overview of the whole Four Horsemen. And I just think that's really interesting how the book of Revelation depicts them and kind of materializes these basic fears, these fundamental, principles? Not really principles, but these fundamental whatever they are of the world, of famine, which is connected to war and to death and to conquest, and all of them, and how they're all just connected in these ways. And I know this has been a long one, and I probably should have put this at number 1 because of how much explanation I can go into it with this one. But number 1 really is my favorite out of these. So, without further ado, let's move on to a recap and then to number 1. So, just to recap, in order, we have number 10, the Bermuda Triangle. Number 9, Crooked Man. Number 8, Number 8 was the Poltergeist Curse. Number 7, Humans Can Nick 2. Number 6, the Mothman. Number 5 was the Oni. Number 4, Ben Drowned. Number 3, Somebody in the Trunk. And number 2, the Four Horsemen. Now finally, we come to number 1, which has interested me my entire life. And I think one of the things that engrosses me so much into it is that I, for the life of me, cannot find information on it. And this is the Headless Horseman. And the Headless Horseman, or the story of Sleepy Hollow. And there's a book on it. There's several books on it. And I cannot find any of them. Headless Horseman is such just an interesting character, and how he relates, and how no one really knows where the story came from. That just really interests me, and I think one of the things that makes me so engrossed in it is the fact that I cannot find any more information on it than the different interpretations. Like, there's different interpretations for Celtic folklore, where he is called Dullahan, or German, where he is the Brothers Grimm, or American, where he is the Headless Horseman, or the Legend of Sleepy Hollow. And just, there's so many different interpretations of it. I'd like to get more hard information on it, and I can't. And that's one of the things that just intrigues me so much about it, is that why can I not find these things? They're out there, they're somewhere, I just can't find them. And I don't know, it's kind of just been something that I've been trying to do for years, is just find information about the Headless Horseman, because I've actually started trying to write stories about him, and then just stopped because I hit a block, because I didn't have enough information to actually make it accurate. And that's just one of the things that makes me so engrossed in this. So yeah, that's my top 10. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have other favorites, you can post them in the comments down below. If you have any arguments, any suggestions, post them below. I'll get back to you. I read every comment that I get. Well, all of them that I can. Sometimes YouTube is stupid, you know. I love YouTube, don't hurt me. But, so, yeah, let me know if you want me to post more of these. And if you do, leave a suggestion for which one I should do next. And I will see you guys next time. Have a great day, and as always, keep on keeping on. And the movie was based on, no. So what happens is, basically, there is, let me look at the wiki. Basically, they open the 7th, fuck you, throat. Stop interrupting my videos.